Second. So the oops, myself. The Rath Yatra festival is has been being held in the Western world for the last well, it's 50 something years. I can't remember exactly how many when the first one was. I would love to see for a second a show of hands for those who have their cameras turned on. A show of hands if you've attended at least one Rath Yatra festival. Give me your hand very clearly so I can see. Okay. D, you haven't? Okay. And Elke, you haven't? Um, okay, amazing. And I see a few others who haven't also. So this festival of His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who, as many of you know, is the guru of my parents, so kind of my grandfather guru in that sense, and who came to America and late subsequently many other countries. He circled around the world. I believe it was something like 12 times in a very short number of years, and really tried to give as much as he could of the traditional culture of bhakti that he had grown up with. And this was a very unique contribution that he gave to the Western world, which is very personal, I think. And it's something I've been talking about. A friend of mine, I was telling him that I was going to go to the Los Angeles Rath Yatra, and he was like, "Oh, Rath Yatras scare me." And I think what he meant by that was just it's very overwhelming. Sometimes it's hot, there's a lot of people. Sometimes you try to dance and then there's not enough space or whatever it may be. It's also very social. So for introverts, you get your dose and then you might have to find a quiet corner at some point. That's me at least. I definitely always need to find a quiet space. But the real beautiful thing about these festivals is the profound meaning behind it. So if you know the meaning of it, it really adds, ultra layers of dimension to the experience. And then to be doing that in a public way, so for those who haven't gone to one before, a huge cart is pulled through the streets. Many times it happens in a very central or iconic place in the different cities where it's held. So in New York, pretty unbelievable that this still happens. And in fact, a piece of trivia, I can't remember, but it was actually Donald Trump who gave permission decades ago. And I can't remember if this is because he had any official position or just because he had some real estate in New York City. He owns a lot of real estate. He gave permission for the cart to start near one of his buildings, and I think they were going to park this cart there. And there was some other permission that he gave. Well, I remember when I heard this, I was like, whoa, I did not expect that connection. But the cart basically goes down Fifth Avenue, which is, such an iconic street in an iconic city. I don't really know what the word iconic means in that regard, but it's regarded in that way in the Western world, and ends in Washington Square Park, which is also um, it's a historic place for all kinds of reasons. So similarly in London, the procession goes from Hyde Park through Park Lane, where some of the most expensive hotels are, like the Ritz, and there's always people looking out the windows and waving. It's a very beautiful energy. It always happens also on a Sunday morning. And then it ends up in Trafalgar Square, which is not, yeah, it's not as, well, I was going to say it's not something actually I lost my train of thought. It actually used to end in Battersea Park when I was a child, for any of you that know London. And there used to be a huge festival site, and some of my childhood memories are with the kirtan going on till at least 11 o'clock at night in the park. Many times my dad would be leading the kirtan, so those were amazing experiences. Um, but the physical austerity of it, walking um, in procession in a parade, basically, and pullings, many people, it's a devotional activity to pull the carts. The carts have these long ropes, and people can join and pull for a little while. And these traditions and these practices and the event itself all goes back to um, the holy place of Jagannath Puri in India, which is on it's on the northeast or eastern side of India, or the state of Odisha. And this festival has been held for, some say millennia, some say at least thousands of years. And every year, millions of people attend this festival. It's actually incredible. And I think it's coming up in July, the actual date. They always live stream it on YouTube now. You can watch the original in India, and it's absolutely mind-blowing, actually, how many people still come there. But yeah, recently on the retreat that I did in Bahamas, we were sharing the backstory for Jagannath, this beautiful form of Krishna who is paraded through the streets on this festival. And we learned a special song together that is offered traditionally to this form of Krishna who's known as Jagannath. And one of the people on that retreat from London, Tima, she went all the way from London to New York this weekend to take part in the festival because she got so inspired from singing that song and hearing the story. We actually did it like a choir on the Bahamas retreat. So it was really, really beautiful. So I was thinking about that today. I was thinking to share a little bit more about that. But let's do our invocation and maybe chant for a few minutes, and then we'll see where we go from there, according to what you're thinking about today, what you're interested in. We can leave it a little bit open. And if we don't speak more about Jagannath today and the festival, we could perhaps revisit that in our next session and actually learn that song together, because it's really it's a special one. That sounds okay. I'm going to switch to the gallery view because I like to see you when we're all singing together, and see you all now. Let's close our eyes together. Let's recite 3 times Om, taking a deep breath in. अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare together Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Thank you all so much for singing with me. Um, Sorry, I know there was a bit of a freeze in there at some point. I opened my eyes and everyone's faces were frozen. I was like, oh no. But it seemed to resolve. It's something I'll work on because today, as you can see, I'm not in my living room where I have been streaming from. I'm in my little back studio, which I just started cleaning up and working on. So I have to see if I can extend the internet a little bit better out here so I can speak to you here. Ah, I feel so different after chanting, after doing kirtan. Even for a short one, that was like a little micro kirtan. Thank you again for singing together. And that tune was reminding me of my dear friend Madhava, who sings that tune a lot. He and I are going to be doing an event together at an iconic cathedral in San Francisco, Grace Cathedral. Gopi is involved also in creating and sharing this event. That's going to be in 2 weeks from now, so we're really looking forward to that. I'm not sure if he's going to sing that tune, but yeah, the moments like that when you can gather together with hundreds of different people from all different backgrounds and hear everyone's voices together, they really carve a deep impression in the heart. I know for those of you that came to some of the concerts that I did on the tour, the US tour that I did 2 years ago, um, I think we experienced that together, especially in New York and LA, which were very large venues, but also Atlanta. I think, Greg, you were in Atlanta, if my memory is correct. And Sydney was in Dallas. And yeah, these were really amazing experiences. So I'd like to open it up a little bit. If anybody has questions or thoughts, things that you would like to input for conversation. Thanks, Gopi, for sharing the link. If anybody actually, if anyone from our little Patreon family here would like to come to this and you don't live in San Francisco or the Bay Area, because that might involve, I know in America that might involve having to take a flight, and that is a huge expense. Please know that if you come, I'll very happily cover your ticket or just put you on the guest list. So if San Francisco is a doable flight away for you, please do consider coming to join us. Yes, Gopi, let me switch to the gallery view so I can see everybody.
Thanks, Jahnavi. So,
yeah.
Hi, my name is Gopi, and I wanted to tell you that ever since I first saw Jahnavi play the Mahamantra at Burning Man, completely by accident at Krishna Camp, I've long held this dream of bringing Jahnavi and Madhava to Grace Cathedral, the biggest cathedral in the middle of San Francisco. And it's finally coming together after 10 years of imagining about it. And there are 750 seats. We plan to fill every one of them. And when we do that, it will be the largest ever Kirtan event in San Francisco. So that's our goal. Yeah, we got about 2, 3 weeks more to go. And sure, with all of the push, we will get there. So all of you are invited. But if you have friends in the area who are Kirtan lovers, please send them. And we want to make this an epic, large event. And once we get it working, then we have a successful model. Then we can repeat Janavi every 3 months or 6 months in San Francisco. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that was amazing. Thank you, Gopi. It is amazing what can manifest when you have a vision, and Gopi's definitely been holding that vision, like you said, for many, many years. And I'm really struck also that uh, basically, a Christian house of worship is open-minded enough to allow a kirtan event to take place. They're very broad-minded, the people there. I went yesterday, and they have yoga classes twice a week with live music, and in many ways, they're just a very special space. So I hope that many different places will take note, because I know when I was in London, we were trying sometimes to host kirtan events in not even within the church, but just in a hall that belonged to the church, and many times they were completely opposed to that. Um, Actually, one church did allow us, which was the Swiss church in near Covent Garden, and we had our 6 hour kirtan 4 times a year there for many years. But yeah, thank you, Gopi. I'm really looking forward to it. Anyone else, you can send a message in the chat. You can send a private message, and I won't say your name if you have a question. Um, any other thoughts? Oh, Greg, yeah, you want to unmute yourself?
Yes. Hey, hello everyone.
Hey, Greg.
Hi. You were speaking before about Patreon, and I guess you may have heard that Wisdom of the Sages did this huge changeover to Circle, and
Yeah,
everybody seems to be pretty stoked about it. So I don't know if that's something that you could consider. I'll put the Wisdom of the Sages website up because
thank
it's
you.
pretty, when you land on it, you'll see that it's pretty organized and everything is all in one place. And
Great.
I know with Patreon, they were also speaking about how difficult it was to sift through anything you post. Like it just kind of disappears. But now it seems to be very streamlined. And like Nityananda was very involved with overseeing
Okay,
it, organizing it. So you can always hit him up for
amazing.
any advice. Yeah, I
Thank
just
you
wanted.
so much. Yeah, I did hear that. I was listening to the podcast episode where they mentioned that. So, but they didn't say what platform they had moved to. So I was meaning to ask them. So that's great. That's really helpful.
Yeah, I think it's called Circle. Yeah, and
Circle.
there's
Okay.
an app also related to it. And you
Okay.
just sign up, and it's like Patreon where you give a dollar amount, and I believe that opens up certain features. I'm not really sure about that, but then you can have an app, and it's
Okay.
all right at your fingertips. Everybody's feedback so far has been very, very stellar.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Greg. Yeah, in about 4 or 5 months, it will be exactly 4 years since I started um, a Patreon page. And since many of you I actually joined right at the beginning, November 2020, I think it was. And yeah, it's been a really beautiful experience, also just having a way to share and connect like this, but also feeling the encouragement and support in a more personal way than just, likes on social media. And not even a feeling. It's very practical. If you give, whether you give $2, $5, $10, $20, it adds up, and it's very, very practical and useful. As you all know, many times, well, any kind of art, actually, just any kind of creative activities, unless you are at a certain level of global acclaim and success, generally the cost that it that it takes to record things, to put on events, to make media, like a music video, things like that, they don't really pay themselves back. In truth, music streaming is, that it's aggregates to a very sometimes laughable amount. It's very, very small in the course of a year. So contributions really do make a difference. And so, yeah, I will definitely consider Greg moving over onto Circle. And there's a lot of ideas I've had, but I've always been trying to go just gradually one step at a time so I don't boom and then bust. But thank you. Michelle says, I wonder if you knew any websites that had books or writings by Yamuna Devi Dasi. I haven't been able to find much of her materials on the web. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to put a website in the chat. So this unalloyed website is the site for not only the books that are I could say by and about Yamuna Devi, because the main book, Unalloyed, which has 2 volumes that come together in a box set, it so with Yamuna Devi, she actually was encouraged to write her autobiography over many years, and she tried to do it over a long time, and there were various issues with it. One was just multiple moves, sometimes losing things that she had written. But then another thing was that she saw herself in such a humble light that she didn't really write about things accurately of her life. She was sort of writing herself out of the picture. So, not speaking about, and like there's this Radha Krishna Temple album that was produced by George Harrison that she was a lead singer on several of the tracks, but she described herself as a background singer, and or one of the choir, something like that, which is obviously not accurate, because she didn't want to sort of amplify her position. I mean, it's hard for me to relate to that sentiment, and I do think that those who are very evolved as spiritual beings, they have a type of humility that can seem almost silly, like, okay, come on, why don't you just say what you did? Like in this world that we live in, we're always being encouraged to like claim what you've done and like shout to the world about it, speak about your achievements, where she never wanted to really, speak in a celebratory way about her achievements at all. So for that reason, I think it was perhaps by divine arrangement that there was a lot of her writings that had been preserved of what she had written about her life. But then ultimately the book was written by her lifelong companion, Dina Tarine, who was able to include passages of her writing, but then also give frame and context to it. So it's a really amazing book. And I just had the idea now that it could be amazing to do a book club together of that book, particularly because, I do have these personal experiences with her, and I also helped to conduct interviews for the book and compile interviews, because it was a whole team. So my role, in certain respects, I did interviews in England with many people who had known her when they were a lot younger. And then I also did interviews in India with the hospital staff at the Bhaktivedanta Hospital, where she had spent some time in a period of really severe ill health. And the memories that the hospital staff gave were just so moving. Many of them broke down in tears when I talked to them about their experiences. So yeah, sorry, I know I'm speaking quite a long time, but that website has not only links to buy the books, but I think there are some excerpts you can read. Then there's also audio recordings and photo gallery. And then also, if you do get the ebook, I know on why am I blanking? So there's an audiobook as well, but there's an ebook, and on the ebook, it has videos and audio recordings linked in the text that relate to, what's going on in that moment. So, yeah, I highly recommend that version, especially it's kind of an enriched, enhanced version. So thank you for the question, Michelle. Gopi's saying, do you have a recommendation for holding on to your practice when you travel a lot? When you travel, you lose the fabric of your home practice routines, regular satsang, kirtans, long-term community, etc. Yeah, anything regular and disciplined, I think, in my experience, is really, really difficult to hold on to when you're traveling. Because, like you said, Gopi, everything goes out the window of your routine, even I mean, your sleeping and your waking and your energy during the day are like core energetic kind of ingredients to doing a practice. Of course, there's your willpower as well. So your willpower might be intact, but everything else might be all over the place. But I also find that when I'm really tired, my willpower is very weak, very low. I guess, I mean, I think with travel, when for myself, and I don't travel that much anymore, and it's also a choice because I find that it's so disbalancing for me. And some people have a more robust kind of physical body or nervous system to handle travel better. And I find for myself that's not the case. So for me, over the past few years, I've been trying to be more selective about travel and be more, in many ways, more local, which is very much how I grew up. And I feel like if you want to have a life that has a steady practice in it, it's unless you have an immense willpower, it is just going to be very difficult if you're traveling all the time. That's my feeling from my own experience. Like I said, it can be a very personal thing. But I think what helps me when traveling is reminding myself of my commitment, reminding myself of like trying to go into that space that I remember within of when I do feel really grounded. And in particular, having at least one person in my life that I could share how it's going with. You know, travel also brings a lot of isolation. Well, it can, depending on your work. Like for you, Gopi, you go to different places and you're with different people. So there's not necessarily that consistent thread of a person that you share about your practice. But, you know, accountability or at least just that solidarity of sharing with someone I found can be really, really impactful. So that's what I would say. And then in the long run, you know, deciding what does a life that involves a depth of practice mean to me? How much does this mean to me? And what may I have to sacrifice to really go deeper in that way over time? And that's something that I remember Yamuna Devi actually wrote me an email about this, and she said that almost in almost those exact words. She said, life is really deciding what matters, um, sort of like how long do I have, what matters most to me, and what do I have to what may I need to sacrifice to really prioritize this thing if it is very important. And she told me that when I was like 20. and I was worrying about life. Now I'm 37, and I relate, and those words resonate for me even more than at that time when I was just having, you know, very youthful kind of concerns about what am I going to do with my life. Hope that helps a little bit, Gopi, and we can speak about it more as well. Jean had a comment here. About the Christian church welcoming us in such a way is due to the obvious that we truly welcome all with spiritual and loving healing ways. Jean, did you mean the Bhakti community or Kirtan or yeah? Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding from there's often, I mean, the misunderstanding is at a profound level, of course, because we see so much war happening in the world on the basis of religion, different religions. And it's understandable that there be conflict when there are different paths, different ways of doing things. Conflict meaning disagreement, or maybe it's more healthy for you to practice in this space and we practice in this space because we have different beliefs. We may follow a different text. We may be rooted in a different cultural tradition. But of course, the bhakti understanding, the bhakti perspective is that there is one supreme person who is known by infinite number of names. And there are different pathways to reach that supreme God. And therefore there's no basis for being, demeaning or unwelcoming toward practitioners of other faith traditions, because we're all children of that same God. But on a certain level of religion, it becomes very much about us and them, and they are right and we are wrong. And so it's understandable that people will look at the practices of a certain group and may feel fearful or condemning, and that does happen. But as always in this world, there's always broad-minded people and there's narrow-minded people also. And I wouldn't necessarily even condemn those who are narrow-minded in the sense that they are faithfully trying to practice something. I mean, some are faithfully trying. Not everyone maybe, but there's devotion in that also. So yeah, but it is a really beautiful thing when you see a space that is welcoming in that way. They were telling me at Grace Cathedral that they were the first space, I don't know if it was in San Francisco, or the first church to welcome HIV positive people to come and join the congregation on a regular basis. And they just generally have a very, very broad-minded, vision, I think, of a sacred space. So I resonate with that very much. So I'm really grateful to be there. Elke, yes, I do have plans to come to London, and I will do kirtan there. I'm still figuring out exactly what I will do, but I know the dates that I'm going to be there. It's going to be from July 15th until right now the 24th, but I think I'm going to extend till the 28th, 29th or so. And most likely I will do probably a mantra lounge. That's always on a Friday in Covent Garden. Maybe some other things. It's a little bit soon to organize any big events, but perhaps a few smaller things. By smaller, I mean, there'll be capacity for maybe like 150, 200 people. I think any bigger than that you need a longer run up to to be able to advertise and bring people there, fill the space. So yeah, I hope to see you there, and any others here. I think Narayani is Europe, but everybody else I think is in the US or other countries. But hope to see some of you there. That would be amazing. London Rath Yatra is on the 21st of July, and I will be there also. Yeah, I've missed it for many years, but I'm looking forward to being there after a long time. It's always it's a special celebration. The walk used to be very long when I was young because we used to walk from Hyde Park to Battersea Park. The walk used to be, to my memory of a child walking, it was like forever, but I think it was at least a 3-hour parade. And I remember one year my mom had a pram or a stroller, and I think my sister was sitting in it some of the time, and then I started crying because my legs were getting tired and they were hurting. My legs were feeling sore, and she was like, "Why don't you sit in the pram? You can take turns." And I was like, "No, I want to do it. And she kept trying to make me sit. She was like, just rest and I'll push you for a bit. I was like, no, I have to do it. Because, you know, when you get to that age, you want to challenge yourself. And it was a long walk. But so I just kept like crying and moaning and still continued the walk. But I did it. And then when we would get to the festival site, there would always be a big tent for the kirtan and performances. And throughout my childhood, I was often involved with performing on the stage. So performing dance or drama usually. I never sang. I never led kirtan, anything like that. That was like not until I was 20 years old. I was way too shy for that. But yeah, amazing memories. And Lena, yes, I will be at the manor too. I'm sure I'll do some kirtan at the manor. I'm not sure if it will be something kind of advertised or just spontaneous. It's nice to do spontaneous things as well. Anything else before we conclude? We have time for one or two more questions or comments. I have one thing in my mind I wanted to share. Suspense. Okay, I guess everyone's feeling satisfied today. Oh, Karami. How do you pronounce your name? Can you let us know? And thank you from Wicklow, Ireland. I'm not sure if it's easy for, I think it's
Yeah,
her.
you were right, Karami, and it's tricky. Not everyone
Karami.
gets it first time. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I can claim some Irish heritage actually, so
Oh,
maybe that's
really? Well, that's not too surprising with your beautiful coloring. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I didn't know that, but my dad has been doing he's very interested in like genealogy, and he's been doing a lot of research into our family history on his side. And so I thought everybody was from sort of England and Wales, and then he found that we had uh, a whole ancestry in Ireland from a
Oh,
couple hundred years ago.
welcome to the tribe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now it makes sense why I always loved Irish music so much. And
Oh yeah, there's a real similarity actually, Janavi. Like it's very interesting. I actually had you on the background there. My husband thought you were a different Irish band that he'd seen last night when he heard you starting to sing. I'm like, no, that's actually, yeah. There's a similar energy about
Mm,
the two. So yeah,
yeah,
thank you,
yeah. Thank you so much,
thank
Karami.
you.
And yeah, the track on my album, Like a River to the Sea, Kaylee and Brudge, that was a that was a tune that I sort of, there may even be a tune in existence that sounds exactly the same. I'm not sure, but it was definitely inspired by Irish music. And my dad would always say, "Let do an Irish tune, do an Irish sounding tune," because we used to listen to Irish folk music um, when I was growing up. So my dad's singing on that with me. And because of that, many people around the world who don't know what a ceilidh is, which is a traditional Irish and also other Celtic regions like Scotland and even Wales and Cornwall have ceilidhs. It's a gathering, like a festive gathering of dance and music that brings together the community. So in my mind, this was a ceilidh gathering in Krishna's place, Vrindavan. And many people come up to me and say, "Oh, I love that track," and I explain what a ceilidh is. So thank you. Okay, I just wanted to end with one thought, and this is something personal, I guess. Gopi, if you need to leave, have a wonderful day in Peru. Um, right now in the world, there are so many very devastating things happening. Um, Many of you may be aware of the situation in Palestine, and I've heard so many other people commenting and posting and news stories about other similar situations around the world that may be less visible in the news. There is war happening in Ukraine. beautiful church bell started ringing just as I started speaking about that. And I have found that when looking at these things, and since a young age, I always had a kind of an interest to read the news and know about what's happening in the world. And I kind of stopped for some time when I was a bit young, in my 20s, but then definitely during the COVID period, I got that sort of addictive reading of the news thing that many people experienced. And, ever since I continue my connection with trying to understand and see what's happening in the world. And I think it also helps me to reflect on my own spiritual practice and the application of that spirituality. How does it engage with the broader world? And so I just wanted to suggest or offer that if you aren't already contemplating that, it is a very difficult but stimulating thing to contemplate. How does my spiritual life relate or apply or serve in the things that are happening in the world that are so devastating? How does it how does it relate when in my day-to-day existence I may not be experiencing the things, well, I'm not experiencing in any way the things that I'm seeing on my phone or on my computer? Um, Perhaps if you have interest in it, and if you don't, I would also love that feedback because it's nice for me to know as well, we sometimes receive so much of that outside of these spaces that when we come together, it's like, no, we just want to dive into kirtan and things that are not too difficult for the mind to deliberate on. But I wanted to mention it because sometimes people ask me on platforms like Instagram that send me a direct message and ask, how do you understand this? How do you process this? And it's something that I don't speak about very much on a very public platform because um, there's just so much potential for misunderstanding, and there's a real lack of nuance, and I just feel like there's no benefit in stirring up people to just be more um, critical and offensive to each other. But I do think that it's important to have these conversations in smaller settings where we can listen and understand each other. And it's something that certainly I speak with my husband a lot because he works at a university, he works for Stanford University. There's been protests happening there, pro-Palestine protests happening there for the last almost 10 months, and a lot of drama on campus. And so in his day-to-day life as a spiritual caregiver on campus, but somebody who also has a role to play in this broader, situation, it's something that he has to think about, and we both discuss it. So I don't know, maybe that was a very like hanging thing to leave you on, but I think more than that, more than the churning questions, I wanted to just encourage you that one way that we can apply our spirituality is really to offer prayers on behalf of those who are suffering in this world. And no matter what side of anything you're on, as we understand the Bhakti perspective, there are no sides. As I said before, we are all children of that same Supreme Lord. And there are many, many people in the world at this time, and there always are, regardless of what's happening, who are suffering right now. So perhaps before you go to sleep at night, before you start your day, can offer a prayer on behalf of all of those who are suffering very, very much at this time. And if you can't think of any prayer to offer, reciting the Maha Mantra, even just once with a prayerful intention, is very wonderful. If you rather listen to something, I could recommend the song that I made called May All Be Blessed, Hari Om. That prayer is a prayer for peace in the world and good fortune for all, but specifically mentions may anger, envy, and enmity in the hearts of those who are, feeling that way, may that be completely extinguished. So it's one that I've been thinking about a lot. And yeah, let's keep our prayers going. Certainly at all the kirtans that I've been doing, we've been praying in that way. So even though the picture is very bleak in this world, and frankly, if I could be very honest, sometimes I feel it's very depressing and I don't feel very spiritually minded about it. I'm just like, what is happening in this world? This is just, it's horrific. It's horrific. And I think there were many months last year that I definitely cried every day. I think I've become a little numb at times, you know, from seeing these things. But we want a world where compassion is active and flowing. And so just finding ways to keep our hearts open, even when there are absolutely horrible, horrible things happening within this world that we all live in. Keeping our hearts open is so important. So yeah, we can try and sing it next time we meet, Sydney. That would be really wonderful. I can, in the meantime, practice it on the harmonium because I've never known how to play it. So I'll do that. So maybe we can just say a prayer now, actually. I will recite that prayer, and actually let me recite the translation, and we can just say the Maha Mantra 3 times together just before we go. One moment, please. Just one moment. I'll just pull up the verse. So there's a translation that I've been sharing when I share this song in a more broad platform, which is a little bit more, I think, accessible for people who are not connected with the Krishna Bhakti tradition. But for today, I'm going to share Srila Prabhupada's translation. And I'll put it in the chat. Oops, getting lost. I'm sorry. So let's read the translation aloud together, and then I'll chant the verse in Sanskrit, and I will then we can say the Maha Mantra 3 times altogether and really try and dial in our prayer for everybody that is suffering immensely with the violence that is happening in this world currently. So altogether, may there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga, for by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of him. Swasyastu Vishwasya Kala Prasidatam Dhyayantu Bhutani Shivam Mito Dhiyam Manascha Badram Bhajata Dadhokshaje Aveshyatam No Matirapya Haituki. Offering our prayers together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all so much. Let's keep it going. I'll send you a reminder keep those prayers flowing. And may we live to see a more peaceful world, uplifted world. I think by the power of sound vibration, it is possible, because sound can transform even matter. Sound transforms the thoughts that we think. Sound transforms the heart. And yeah, I pray that we will be able to see how that transformation takes place in the world. Thank you all for a wonderful session. Thank you for being accepting and open to a more free roaming session today. And I look forward to the next time. And the dates are on the Patreon board there for the next session. I am going to be traveling in July, but I've still tried to find dates that I can do so we keep our meetings consistent. Thank you all once again, and see you all soon. Hare Krishna.